Once upon a time, in a beautiful town called Obago in southeastern part of Nigeria, there lived a young pretty woman called Asa. Asa was a beautiful young woman who was kind and down to earth. She was so sociable and makes friends easily, especially with male folks. She was also very hardworking and industrious. Asa was a very good cook who can cook her way into a man's heart with her palatable dishes. Asa was liked by many men in the village. She can hardly say no to men as she loves too quickly and opens up to men as long as you do her a favor. Even the tiniest favor can make her smile. She uses her womanhood as a reward for such kindness shown to her by men. She always finds it a debt if she refuses a man who tells her how beautiful she looks, or if she didn't give a man what he wants of her. Her reputation in the village is that of being an every man's girl, but her kind heart and hardworking nature cannot be taken away from her. Asa does chores for many old and widowed women, less privileged families, even for some rich and affluent people as well. She does a lot for men close to her. She could work the whole day for you and ask for more work if you still have more to be done. This made many people like her and take advantage of her kindness, including men. However, a problem keeps coming up: her inability to say no to men. This shortcoming has made men to fight over her, claiming how close they have gone with her. The issue of Asa's promiscuity has made her to be particularly a turn-off for many men. Nevertheless, to some, her good heart and hard work brings her to heart, and they pray and always wish her well. Asa's hard work and dexterity made her loved by many, including Prince Adanna, the handsome prince of Obago, who was the only son of King Ikenga, the famous and wealthy king of Obago, who had fought and won many wars and conquered several territories, including economic artifact lands. Although Asa only does chores and cooks the prince's favorite isiewu, the prince liked her so much and sent her for several errands despite having servants at his beck and call. Asa does not have the willpower to say no to a man who is nice to her, and slowly she goes from one man to another, hoping to be in the good book of any man who gave her a helping hand or anyone who shows her care. One fateful day, in the wake of dawn, Asa ran out of her hut throwing up. Her mother, seeing this, immediately bounced on her and said, "I have been watching you, and I have cautioned you severally. Asa, who made you pregnant?" Asa, overwhelmed like a nun who has been accused of having sex, couldn't say anything. Her mother scolded and scolded, but she couldn't come up with any name. After several days of queries, after confirming her assertion, Asa refused to say anything, wondering who amongst her many male friends would be the father of her unborn child. Several more attempts by her to get the identity of the man who put her in the family way proved abortive. The mother, on her part, flogged and beat, but no name was revealed by Asa, the star girl of the town. As the pregnancy grew, Asa continued her chores for families who need her assistance. She became more useful than she used to be, even in her condition. Asa worked for widows and even for the prince. Everyone wondered who the father of her unborn child is, but she will always tell anyone that cares that her child will be the future king. Everyone who heard this will be left with thoughts in their minds. Could the king be responsible for Asa's pregnancy? Or is she mischievously calling names? This kept the whole villagers so confused and speculative. Asa, just like a maiden being controlled by a mystery evil spirit, woke up one morning to declare to her relatives that Prince Adanna was the man responsible for her pregnancy. News of this went round the entire village, leaving everyone agog. People in the village started talking. Is Prince Adanna also sleeping with Asa? Is she the one keeping him warm at night? They gossiped. News soon reached the palace, and King Ikenga the Great summoned his son to inquire the truth about the message brought to the royal home. His words shattered Prince Adanna's countenance. Are you the one who put a commoner in a family way and left her all by herself all this while? He asked. Adanna, enraged, shouted, I have never touched that girl. But his father, having concluded his discussion with his son, never believed him. He pondered why a young, innocent girl could have the guts to accuse the prince of what he didn't do, knowing fully well that the gods could strike her dead. Does she know what will be done to her if he finds out it's not true? He wondered to himself. The prince ordered the girl to be brought before him immediately. The servants brought Asa before the prince, and he asked her, Who do you say is responsible for your pregnancy? Know that you are standing before the great statue of Oyi the Great. Tell me. Asa shouted with great abandon, It is the prince of Obago. Everyone that was around became convinced Asa was saying the truth. King Ikenga, having seen the confidence with which the young girl laid her accusations and knowing that this can bring the royal household to disrepute, decided to send his Onowu and Chief Egenti to proceed to pay Asa's dowry according to the traditions of Obago village. He did that so convincingly, having seen how difficult it was for himself and his wife the Lolo to have their own children. He didn't want to make any mistake that could lead to possible termination of his royal lineage. Prince Adanna was full of rage and bitterness. He wondered why he wasn't consulted before the move. He treated his new wife Asa like a plague, didn't allow her to come near him. He didn't even speak to her or respond to her greetings. She stayed on her own and talks only to the king anytime he is less busy. He would tell her tales of war and conquest. After some time, Asa put to bed a bouncing baby boy who brought joy and warmth to the royal household. Her son didn't look different from the royal household. He resembled the king and his son. Asa was being taken care of and loved as queen in waiting, which made Prince Adanna feel slighted and did not adhere to the advice of his father to try and love Asa. Rather, the prince went to marry Adanna, his betrothed and childhood love. Adanna was the love of his life, the first daughter of a first-class chief who is rich and well-respected. Adanna was supposed to be the prince's woman, but was overtaken by Asa due to the event of her pregnancy and childbirth. The prince had a very elaborate marriage ceremony with the creme de la creme in attendance, including chiefs and big yam farmers who boast of harvests ranging from 3,000 to 4,000 tubers of yam each farming season. The ceremony was the talk of the town, and everyone had more than enough to eat and drink. In the ceremony, there were assorted foods like abacha, akpu, isiewu, ofoha, and good meals. The ceremony was concluded, and Adanna was brought into the royal court as the beloved wife, and the prince brought her into his hut and never let her out of his sight. It was love made in heaven. She was respected by everyone in the royal household. Prince Adanna never talked to or touched Asa, but watched her son, Dinah, closely, doubting and trying to convince himself he never touched Asa or impregnated her. He analyzed her every visit to his hut and wondered if he had done it while he was asleep. As months rolled by into years, King Ikenga summoned his son to inquire why his wife, whom he married so extravagantly, hasn't gotten pregnant for this long. "We are taking our time," he declared, making it look like it was not an issue to be worried about. A year went into 2, and from 2 to 3, and the beloved wife of the Prince of Obago haven't given birth to a child for her husband. King Ikenga summoned the chief priest of the entire land to inquire what the problem was, but the chief priest declared that the gods are silent. "I didn't hear anything from the gods," he said. The mysteries that abound in the royal household remained unfolded even after the departure of the chief priest. Both king, queen, and prince were astonished to hear the proclamation of the gods. There was great silence in the palace. The prince was pacing up and down, thinking about what the future holds for his family, the throne, and what or who is responsible for the happenings in the royal household. Adanna, on her part, was feeling concerned and guilty, having loved the prince all her life, and the prince, in turn, loving her and treating her well, decided within herself to help her husband and the royal household to have heirs. She thought of a plan to make the prince lay with her co-wife Asa, so that Asa could give birth to another child, which will in turn bring gladness back into the royal family. They both got united and set up a plan. Asa would prepare the prince's favorite isiewu, and Adanna would serve him with nkwenu, and then Adanna would leave for Asa to come into the prince's hut for as long as it would take for their plan to work. Adanna was committed to making this plan work out. That night, she replaced the keg of nkwenu as soon as the prince finishes it. She played with the prince in order to distract him from stopping the flow of his drinking. From keg to keg, the prince became drunk and uncontrollable. Adanna then started her work as a woman on him. She pulled all his robes and played with him until he cried out for her to open her honey pot. At that point, Adanna, who was also enjoying the moment, reluctantly left the hut for her rival, now ally, but she didn't go any far before she heard the moan from Asa. Asa, a woman deprived of a man's touch for ages, cried to her husband not to stop. It went on and on throughout the night until Prince Adanna got exhausted and slept off at the break of day. "Do you want him dead?" Adanna growled at Asa. "You have really got an insatiable urge," she told her. Adanna wondered if she could continue with this plan or terminate it. Jealousy had eaten her up. But looking at how unhappy the palace was, she decided to give it another shot. The next night, Asa mourned like a new bride all through the night, while Adanna cried and prayed the gods of fertility visit her soon. Prince Adanna noticed the change in his lovely wife, Adanna's countenance. He assured her that he wasn't bothered about her childlessness. He reassured her of his love. Not too long, the palace midwife declared Asa pregnant again. As she walked from her hut doing chores in the royal court, everyone in the palace was joyful. Smiles and expectations filled everywhere. Adanna, on her part, had mixed feelings of gladness and uncertainty, but she remained resolute that her own shall come one day. It was Eke market day. Asa was doing her chores as usual when she suddenly began to feel pain within her waist region. The midwife was called upon immediately to attend to her. After some minutes of her going into the special hut, she came out and declared that Asa, Prince Adanna's second-placed wife, had given birth to a bouncing baby boy. At once, the baby's cry filled the entire royal court. The king himself was seen from a distance, praising the gods who have blessed his family again with another son. The baby boy was presented to the king and he was elated. He found out the baby had the royal seal on his shoulder. a birthmark significant for royals in his lineage. That left no doubt that this was his grandchild. This made the prince more confused about how destiny had played a game on his life and family. He wondered why this could become his fate as a prince. He wondered if it could be a spell from an enemy or something more. Many unanswered questions filled his mind. He pondered on this while taking his favorite nkwenu and isiewu from his favorite cook, Asa, even though she just gave birth to his second son just yesterday. When the prince carried the newborn baby, he knew for sure that this baby belonged to him. He summoned the seer from the village to inquire what was happening and why his lovely wife, Adanna, couldn't give him a child. The seer, after his permutations with his magical bead, calmly announced, "The gods are silent. They speak when they want to, and no man gives them the words to speak." This sounded like a chorus of a broken record to all present in the courtyard. Prince Adanna tried several others, but no one told him what he could take home. Prince Adanna would not let his lovely wife Adanna off his side. He believed in her ability to give him a child. He would always carry her around, kiss her forehead, and hold her so tightly as though someone would steal her away. He believed also that if he showed her so much love, his wife will in turn give him a child. He believed his love could break all ills and conquer any spell that may be preventing her from getting pregnant for her husband. Prince Adanna would make love to his wife all day, hoping she could receive his seed and conceive, so that she could bear him his long-wanted son. As he drills into her, it becomes more and more obvious that Adanna, his childhood lovely wife, couldn't give him a child. However, he didn't give up. He was convinced he married her a virgin. He said to himself, "A virgin girl can't be barren. She has not been with any man before," he pondered to himself as he walked through the lonely part of the village to consult Ijele, the truth of childbirth. Ijele told him that the gods of childbirth were silent. She told him to keep faith and never lose it. She also advised him to turn away the attention of childbearing obstructing demons while going into his wife. She further explained that he could do something that the demon couldn't understand while making love to his wife. That night, the prince, having understood Ijele had helped several couples succeed, accepted wholeheartedly Ijele's advice. He prepared himself for the battle ahead and also prepared his wife for the task ahead. Adanna repeated all her tactics they used when she planned with Asa. She begged Asa to prepare him isiewu, which she fed him with nkwenu. She also prepared him to be body massaged by the servants. At dawn, Prince Adanna, following Almighty Ijele's advice, made his wife to kneel, and then, taking her from behind, he would thrust to the rhythm of Ada's mourning. He would go from left to right in quest to find the proverbial goalpost. He banged and thought to himself, "At least the demons preventing this my lovely wife from conceiving wouldn't know what is going on now. The demon will be confused and fly away, thinking I am beating or manhandling my wife," he thought to himself as he thrust in and out of his lovely wife. Adanna mourned in ecstasy, telling her dear husband how sweet he is and apologizing for her inability to give him a child he desperately wants from her. On hearing this, the prince rebuked her and warned her never to bring bad thoughts into these sacred affairs. He also explained to her that with this position, the demons of obstruction of conception would not know what they are doing, as the demons have lived over 1,000 years and wouldn't understand what was actually going on. which is to produce a child for the family. Night after night, the prince would mount at his wife's backside like a horse, riding her to great pleasure and making sure no drop of his juice falls outside the enclave of pleasure. Adanna would mourn in reckless abandon to the delight of her prince, an act that alerts the royal household, including Asa, the prince's detested wife, who would stay up and only hope and pray that her time of such enjoyment would come, just like her co-wife is doing night after night. King Ikenga explained to his son why Ijele gave him the advice she did. He also advised him to double their effort and work harder on his wife. Prince Adanna, on his part, made more effort night after night and hoped for the good news each morning. He worked and worked until he got tired and decided he would wait for the good news. He ordered Adanna to return to her hut as he was convinced he had done a good job. She returned to her hut and to the attention of the midwife, with the prince waiting in anxiousness for the news that never came. Weeks went by and Prince Adanna would wonder and pray to no avail. Asa had stayed almost 2 years after her childbirth, and Prince Adanna had noticed how beautiful she became after the beauty hands of the palace beautician, Ilonsi, whose job was to trim and beautify the woman who gives birth in the royal household. The prince, in frustration and curiosity on what Asa tastes like, ordered her to move into his hut. With no waste of time, she appeared with few belongings. There and then, Prince Adanna pounced at her like a hungry lion, waiting for who to devour. He hadn't been with his wife for some time now. He had always gazed at Asa as she moved up and down the royal court, walking majestically in beauty. Truly, he said to himself one day, this woman is truly beautiful. Asa would cry in ecstasy to her husband to do with her whatever he pleases. Asa soon took in again and was confirmed by the chief midwife. That made Adanna so happy and excited. At least he had no doubt of being a man this time. This time, he said to himself, there is no manipulation nor suspicion. He had monitored Asa, his wife, closely until she got pregnant for his child. She hasn't left his sight since she came into his hut. The king and chiefs of the village were so astonished to what was happening at the palace. The rejected one, now preferred and giving birth to the heirs of the kingdom. Now, the prince, still in shock, went to a distant village in search of possible answers. He searched and searched, but returned more confused than when he set out. On his way back, he pondered if Adanna was cursed by the goddess of child conception. He also wondered if his father or any of the chiefs knew what was happening. As he stepped into the royal court, his sons rushed out to welcome him with a hug and laughter. And again, the chief midwife proclaimed the good news, saying that Asa is yet carrying another child in her womb, the fourth now. She soon gave birth to a baby boy, and to the admiration of the villagers who termed him a strong man and one blessed by the gods. His father recalled a prophecy by Abalanze the seer, a medicine man from Amanuke. He prophesied that from the offspring of the king will come forth 4 rulers of the 4 clans of Obago. Should I summon Abalanze, he thought to himself. No, he is arrogant and boastful. He doesn't respect me, he said. The king, now weak and frail, summoned the entire village, declared Asa the first wife and queen in waiting to the displeasure of the prince. He knew that his days were numbered and wanted to put everything in place before joining his ancestors. The king also proclaimed the first fruit of Asa the heir to the throne. He will be king after his father before him, knowing that the gods have a hand in his coming into existence, and wondered why no man had come forth to claim him as a son, since Prince Adanna had denied Asa's pregnancy from day one. With this, the king was convinced he had done the right thing and blessed them according to the custom and tradition of the village. Prince Adanna, knowing that his father knew the second son was his rightful son, wondered why the king would take such a decision without consulting any one of them. He had wanted the king to bless the second instead of the first. Neither the prince nor his mother the queen loved what the king did, but didn't do much because it was a king's verdict. As the months rolled by, the great King Ikenga passed on. It was on a bright sunny morning, after taking his breakfast and herbs, he gave up the ghost with a sweet smile. He lived a good life and had been a good king to his people. He was buried and celebrated with fun and pageantry. Many great kings graced the occasion. King Ikenga was given a befitting burial and funeral rite. When he was alive, he was respected by all. Many kings came from time to time to pay him homage. He brought so many developments to Obago. His son cried uncontrollably, a testament that he will be missed. The death of the king brought a lot of grief and uncertainty to the once happy and vibrant household, with Adanna's loyalty caught in between two women, one whom he had loved all through his life, and another whom bore him many sons who are heirs to the throne of the kingdom. Adanna, now king, ruled his people with the tenets he learnt from his father and how he saw his father rule his kingdom. He had exhibited great wisdom, but with some traces of indecisiveness. His reign was blessed with riches, peace, and bumper harvest, with many people coming in for trading and farming. King Adanna's weakness remained his indecisiveness, in the sense that he upturns decisions already made by him and his council. His mother, the Queen Mother, influences his decision greatly too. She would upturn decisions already made in the council of chiefs of the village. Everyone complained about such to the displeasure of many. The Queen Mother now convinced her son to reverse the decision of the king. He then made the second son, Omekannaya, the heir to the throne, and also proclaimed his wife Adanna as the queen, to the dismay of many. King Adanna's pronouncement didn't go well with his other wife Asa, who was surprised that Adanna, her husband, had not accepted Onyeka, her first son, as his heir. She wondered why her husband would not accept her son after all these years, and also thought that she wasn't accepted all these years as well. This made her to lose it and turn from a once lovely, peaceful, and hardworking woman into a tyrant who made the royal household unlivable for everyone. She fights with whomever crosses her path. She lost it on a day she had a fight with Adanna and called her barren. That day, King Adanna, having seen the state of things, sent Asa out of the royal house. He ordered her to leave, as the man who paid her dowry was no more. Asa was thrown out without her sons and any belonging she could live on. She was prevented from living with her sons by the king. She left in agony and bitterness. No one could intervene on that because the king was already very angry. Weeks after Asa was driven away from the palace, all the sons of the royal household except Onyeka, the first son, fell sick. They couldn't walk, talk, nor eat. The chiefs immediately advised King Adanna to summon the great seer of Amanuke, who had never been to the palace due to his long-term misunderstanding with late King Ikenga. Abolanze was a great seer from Amanuke who had solved so many problems in many villages and clans. He will find a solution to this, the chiefs told him. Let us fetch him immediately and have him solve all the problems, they maintained. Abolanze the Great entered the court with his back. He immediately declared that something bad had happened in the palace. He told the king that the first thing he will tell him is about what he has longed to know. He further asked the king where his blessing was and why he sent her away. The king, still in surprise, still wondering how Abolanze knew his other wife and everything about her, and also told him he caused all the miseries within the royal household. Abolanze turned to Adanna again in rage and asked further, "Why have you put off the blessings the gods have given you to take the curse of another?" Abolanze reminded Adanna of an event where she insulted and disrespected an old, poor widowed woman who simply asked for her help. He told her that Asa, despite her imperfect life, helped that old woman, and she in turn blessed her, taking the blessings from her and giving it to Asa. In her words to you, she said, "I will take your glory and give to another." That sentence pierced Adanna's heart as she remembered what had transpired between her and the old woman on that fateful day. She wept as she remembered and wished she had learned a helping hand on that day. "I didn't have to insult her," she said to herself. "She only asked for my help," she said to herself. It was hard for her to take. She wished the hands of time could be turned back. She was a very beautiful girl at her prime. From a privileged family, her father was a first-class chief. She never bothered about the poor and downtrodden. She saw herself above those other people who didn't look as beautiful as she looks, or people who struggled through life. The seer instructed she should apologize at her grave. Adanna at once hurried to make arrangements with his right-hand man, Chief Atama, for them to apologize at the old woman's grave. So, lovely people, let us learn our lessons. It is not good for us to look down on the people we think we are better than. The clock could turn at any time. Life, they say, is unpredictable arena. No one knows what tomorrow holds. Just like a pregnant woman, life gives birth to many varieties at different times. Please like and share and comment. Feel free, please, to subscribe. Do you think she deserves what she got? Do you think the old widow was right to have cursed her? Do you think the gods were too cruel on her? Let me know, please. Thank you.